All right, I call the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order at 7:04. First item is discussion and final revisions to the application handbook. Again, Grant, thank you very much for doing that on the fly. I got no other comments on that. So if we want to just go ahead, we can finalize that and we can get that up on the website. If everybody's okay with that. I mean, we went through it pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any additional comments to it, but I think there were a couple outstanding items that I think Freddie was going to follow up on in terms of from our last meeting in terms of, implementing it into the handbook, but I don't have anything new that I have.
Let me see here.
So, may I say?
Go ahead, Freddie, please.
I had to reach out to Stuart and I haven't heard back from him. It was about the projects that you don't have control of that we would for the CPC to approve. Or I shouldn't say approve, recommend for town meeting when the project proponent does not have authority to do the work.
Yeah, I think there were some other things as well. Maybe not reaching out to Stuart, but just looking at the comments here from last time, we said.
Did you see the 3-factor test, Grant, that I added to the Dropbox?
I did, yes.
Okay. So that I know that was one of the questions you had.
About the Dropbox.
Sure, Claire.
And this came up on another committee that I'm on. I saw a couple things on there that it looked like we were supposed to comment or edit on. Am I correct on that?
So the
reason for putting it on Dropbox was to have a document that people could comment on, correct? Am I right on this?
No. So if I can, Claire, so the reason we created the Dropbox was so everyone could have access to the documents prior to the meeting. So everyone would be aware of what we were discussing, not so much to comment on within the Dropbox itself, but just to have access to the documents in advance of the meeting.
Okay. The reason that I bring this up is just to make sure that everybody understands. If it, and if I was kind of a little confused on it, I can't believe that I'm the only one. If multiple people are commenting on the document and making notes, I noticed a couple of spots there was some red text in there that to me could be construed as comment that needed to be discussed. Got to be careful on OML. I
understand, Claire.
Okay.
On the handbook, no, just so you know, on the handbook, we had discussed that and gone over that. That's why there was a document in there for the application. Not the application, excuse me. For the forum, I had redlined some items. Those were just updating the numbers going in advance.
So are we going to go over those red line tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Hopefully briefly, because again, it's just updating a prior forum. So yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So Grant, we can leave this open and just finalize it at the forum at our meeting on the 18th. But it won't get up on the website until probably the next day.
Yeah, I think there were a couple. I was just going through the outstanding comments that I had on the document. Some of them were simple, just like changes that we wanted to make, like adding a table of contents, adding that flow chart, stuff like that, which would involve just editing it. And then I think there were a couple things that we had questions about. The one that Freddie mentioned, and also the whole thing about housing funds being returned, something being returned to the CPA fund. How is it? There's an outstanding question on that. So
those are both for Stuart, I believe.
Yeah.
Those two.
And then there were just like other editing things that I think we wanted to do. So that's the only reason I would, I'm happy to work on it today, but if people want to wait until the next meeting, then that's fine as well.
That's fine. That's fine. It won't hurt us to do that, Grant.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So the next is the revised application. So Katie had gone through Grant, if I make you co-host, would you go into the Dropbox and hold on one second. And bring those up? It's come on, let me make you co-host.
Yes, I need to get it.
Okay, I just made you co-host. And again, we're just gonna go over, there are some changes that need to be made on it. Katie made it, so it's all PDF fillable. And Katie, do you want to talk for a second about what you did and the open-ended questions?
Yep, yeah, so I went through all the whole application and just put in what I thought would be a good fillable format right there. So like the check boxes should now all be actual boxes you can check. As far as open-ended, this version, well, not this version, but the version that's fillable, or maybe it is, it scrolls in that form instead of like making it smaller. So I don't know if we ever wanted to print out, if we print these out, if that would actually print well. But as far as the applicants, they can put as much as they want and just continue to scroll.
Yeah, Katie, that was my only thing, and I can't find it now. Of course, was like, to your point, I didn't print it, so to your point, I don't know, but I liked how that. I haven't seen that before, so I like that how the bar just scrolled. I found like one section where it didn't do that. It just stopped me with a hard character limit.
Okay.
We can take that offline too. Like,
Okay.
it's so minor. But I just saw one with the scroll, so that's really good.
Awesome. Yeah, I can look, and it's probably just a advanced setting. I have to click something, so that's totally
Yeah,
fine.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
ask?
go
I
ahead.
think it's important that it can be printed.
I'll test it and see what it looks like if it just takes a snapshot of the, as much as it can, or if it actually prints the whole scrolling, like a one-page type of look. So I'll test it out, and if not, what I can do is revert it back so that it just makes the text smaller, and then put a character limit so they'll just have to attach something, because we obviously don't want to get too small.
Not the meeting yet, right? Oh, just
Okay, so we're just gonna kind of scroll through this and make a few changes. I know we need to change the and Katie's gonna make notes of the changes, so she'll take care of them. The application due date is September 15th, if I remember correctly. So-
And Lisa, that answers the
Yes.
question coming out of rec, because that was exactly the feedback in our meeting last week was like, wait, August 31st is aggressive.
Yeah, I think the handbook says
Yeah.
September 15th, so Katie will change that. The rest of this, if anybody has any changes, but this is pretty standard with the application that we've used for years. Any comments? If not, we'll just go to the second page, Grant. Thank you. So on this, Katie, we need to change out Ben's name and email address for mine.
Okay.
We need to change the application date in that same paragraph
Mm-hmm.
to September 15th. Let's see. Did anyone else have anything on this page? Okay, let's go to the next page. And again, these are all just fillable, standard. And Freddie, jump into if you see something, please.
On number, excuse me, on number 4, I was wondering, should we be more specific about what town plans we're referring to? A couple that came to mind for me were the master plan and if it's housing related, the housing production plan. But if you're just an applicant who doesn't know what those are, I think might be just too vague.
And Grant, where is that at? Sorry.
Community
community need.
need. Does it address it in existing town plans? When I read that, I think about the master plan, and I think that's what other people have done, but I'm curious.
I
if we
think
wanna
about
ask them.
the open space and
examples.
recreation plan.
Okay, let me just write and have Katie write that. Open space and recreation plan, the master plan. And we
Housing
can add
production
those as like
plan.
an EG or IE, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, just in
Okay.
case people aren't familiar or with what we're kind of
Okay.
thinking about there.
Katie, are you good with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else on this one?
Just, this is where I run into a character limitation.
Okay,
Hold on, actually, well, starting on number 3, I think. Yeah, so so 1 and 2, Katie, I can do unlimited characters,
Okay,
and then 3, 4, and 4 is where I run into, I think, just having a character limitation.
okay, awesome. I'll take a look.
And
Brandon,
6.
Ellen? Sorry,
not
sorry, Kristen.
Sorry,
Okay.
and 6, but not 5. 5's good.
Okay, sweet.
Grander Ellen, did you have anything?
Well, just on the character limit, and I know that Katie did make this a fillable PDF, but have we considered making it a Word document or something so that people can kind of expand it as they need? Or another option, if we want to do the fillable PDF, would be to put like something at the end on the last page saying, you know, if you need more space for any of the above questions, kind of having like an open-ended thing. Because I know that previously people haven't had enough room, and you know, if they really want to expand on the community need and they want to write 2 pages about it or something, there's not that opportunity right now other than attachments, and that kind of gets messy. So either I was wondering, you know, can we make it a Word doc, or do we not like that? You know, to just add more spaces as needed, or just kind of adding like a couple blank boxes at the end or something for people to expound on the earlier questions if they ran out of room.
Katie, do you have
go-
thoughts on that?
For the
I,
PDF, we're guaranteed to have everybody able to fill out an editable PDF, whereas, I mean, most of us would be able to fill out Word, but I guess we
Oh,
can't
yeah.
guarantee everybody has Word, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks.
I think if we fix, you know, like some of the ones are where you can add as much as you want, and then we test the printing, we might be okay. We just gotta be
Okay.
consistent. I hear your point, Grant. If we print it and it's no good, then we should.
I did
consider
just test
something.
it, by the way. It does cut it off if you have to. It only prints the width of the box or the height of the box, but there's probably a way to fix that, maybe in the PDF settings where you say print whole contents or something.
Yeah,
I'll test that. I think too, for like security reasons, like if I were to do this in Word, I could change the questions and change the formatting a lot
Sure.
easier than a PDF. So this kind of locks it in place, at
Hmm.
least a lot better. So we could, I can make even the boxes, I can spread out the question numbers too to give them more room. And then we can do a whole, you know, a couple blank at the end. If there's specific questions you think that will have long answers, we can say like, if you need to continue, please see, you know, page 7, page 8, whatever it is, if that
I
makes
think
sense.
it
Yeah, I
depends
think
more
that
on the
that works,
applicant
Katie.
than
Thanks.
the question.
Okay, everybody good on this then?
I just
All
have
right,
a suggestion to make, only because I just got through going through the process that the state has with the one-stop grant, even though this is completely different. But it's the same thing where you have a PDF file that essentially has a limited number of characters that you can enter. And the way it's done, and I'd be glad to show Katie, it might be helpful. If you're gonna limit, and depending on, of course, the state gets a whole lot more than the town does. But if you are going to limit the responses to concise responses related to the information that you're looking for, what they have done is they listed the max characters per question, you know, so for that particular field. And the system just doesn't take any more. What I found out, and I worked with Vanessa on this in order to get it submitted to the state, was the advantage of having a limited number is it kind of cuts back on a lot of the excess stuff. But looking at the specific questions, and somebody brought this up earlier, I think it was Grant, that said, let me just scroll here for a second. Does, number 4, why is this project needed? Does it address needs identified in existing town plans? And I think that what he said really makes a lot of sense, because we want to make sure that all of these requests are in line, and that the person who's filling it out does that work, and nobody on the CPC has to go chasing after them to say, well, you know, your submittal did not fully answer, for example, question number 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the more detail we get and the response is clear, it makes for an easier application
Right.
process.
Yeah.
Because we have the information up front that we can work with, even if, you know, we still need follow-up questions, at least there's something there that we can, you know.
Right, so if you look at the way the questions are, of the individual segments that you have to fill out for the one-stop grant, it actually kind of gives, after it has what you have on there, it kind of gives a little bit of, like a 1 or 2 line hint, so to speak, in terms of what specifically should be put in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think for at least 4 and 5, they're specifying some plans that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that they might want to look at would be good. For number 5,
Right,
I
yeah.
think
And these
we could say
actually,
perhaps list
track-
committees that have supported this or something to, you know, prompt that in case they, you
right,
know, in
and
case they
these
aren't sure how to
actually
answer that.
track right along with the questions that are asked in the one-stop grant. It's kind of interesting. That's it's so close.
So going back to 4 for a second, Katie, can we actually add under the plans as well, the housing production plan? Isn't that what it's called, Ellen, for affordable housing? Okay, I just want to make sure we include that as well.
Can do.
Thank you. All right, so Katie will play around with that. We'll see what we can come up with based on the comments here today. Can we go to the next page, Grant?
Sorry, one super quick thing on number
Sure.
3.
Sure.
There's just a parentheses, the close parentheses missing at the end of that question.
Okay, Katie, got that?
Got it.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
Actually, that's one thing. Can we move that that chart up? Is that possible instead of having it on the last page? Like, I feel like it should go with the eligibility information so that if you're not sure if it's eligible, it should be right there, kind of, as you move throughout the application rather than referring to the end.
So you mean move it up to the page after this, Grant? So, or the page before it?
Which one is it this chart here?
Yeah.
It takes a whole page, so we'd have to.
Yeah. It is a whole page.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so. I almost feel like it should be inserted in the middle of the application, say, you know, here's what are eligible projects, you know, how does yours meet it? But I
What
guess
about
it's
if we say
matter.
see page 10 or just make reference to it, Grant?
Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Can we do that, Katie?
Sure. Do you want me to just say see page 10? Or
See page,
or whatever page it
we actually say
is.
that. Please refer
Yeah.
to the chart on the last
Already-
page
I
already.
don't think you can do that. If this is going to be expanding as you
Oh, right.
write into it, somebody might have a 30-page application, God help us, but
Yeah.
you know, you can't say, I think it says the last page. What's wrong with the
Well,
last
just,
page?
just say see appendix 1 and label that appendix 1, or, you know, whatever, article. Just call it appendix 1, and then we can say see appendix 1, and, you know, that's it. We could put a table of contents that hyperlinks directly to it.
Yeah,
You're
the only
putting a
reason I
table
brought
of
it up-
context, excuse me, you're putting a table of contents
Or whatever,
on the
you know,
application?
Well, however, you can just label that artifact 1 or article 1, and then here you can say like, see, artifact 1.
What's
And
wrong with
then-
the last page?
Last
I'm
page.
not
see-
understanding.
I think
Yeah.
if we had a bunch of them, it might make sense to say, appendix 1, appendix 2, but we just have the one on the last page, right? This is,
Yeah. That's
Do you have
fine.
2, Lisa?
No, the last chart falls in line with. Grant, can you go down? Sorry. Keep going till the second to the last page, I believe is the other chart.
Oh, the chart. Sorry. This one.
The one above that. There you go.
So the only reason I brought it up is that this is the biggest sticking point, it seems, in the application process about what is actually eligible and stuff like that. And I feel like it's really important, and we get applicants who don't, either don't.
Shouldn't that be at the beginning to find out if it's eligible or not?
Yeah, so that's why I feel like maybe it's just me, but I feel like people don't read the stuff at the end. They go through the application. Either we could link to the handbook in which we talk about what's eligible, or link to the IGR, which goes into eligibility, or a
What
copy of
about like an
NPC's
electronic signature or some sort of indication at the bottom of this grant? Like, I have read and understand the above and can confirm that my project, fits within the criteria outlined or something.
Yeah, but doesn't that still have to be verified?
Yeah, but it's hopefully forcing their hand a little bit more. Like when you're being asked to say, yeah, I've read this, I'm good. You're probably a little bit more likely to do it.
Yeah, I think we had mentioned the same thing with the handbook, that we should have some sort of acknowledgement of receipt or something, but
Mhm.
I think we said that we would do that on the application, actually, in terms of, I have read the handbook, like a
Yeah.
checkbox or something.
Yep.
Read and
So-
understand.
Grant, go up one page. Please, sorry, if you could.
This one?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure where we can add that. That by submitting this application, you acknowledge that you've abided by the recommendations in the handbook. And your project meets the requirements, on the last page or something along that line. Just add something there, but by telling them, by submitting the application, they agree, you don't necessarily need a signature, but that's an acknowledgement. Thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
if
think that
our
would-
concern is that they're not going to look at the last page for the chart, they're probably not going to read that one bullet point about legal text, right?
I think up
Yeah,
above,
and it's a self-assessment, which.
it
can
could be up
screw
here
Anyway,
perhaps, before the
Okay.
actual question,
So-
where we actually talk about the handbook.
I
Before
like
filling it
that
out,
approach,
and then
Grant.
have
I
it-
think just,
have it
yeah,
be a
just put it
checkbox.
up front and then people have access to it. They don't have to
Put a link
scroll,
or
they don't
put
have
the
to
actual-
click. I think just put the actual picture of that chart up there. We can leave the last one that's specific to historical projects at the end, but the more general one that comes right before it. I think, like we've
The
said, this
table.
has been our sticking point. This has been our source of confusion. Let's make it as simple as possible and just move that up here with the question about eligibility.
So let me just be clear. So you're saying instead of, we're gonna move that whole page and make that page 2? Because, or you're saying it's just take that whole page and insert it above.
I
If you
think
go
we-
back up, Grant, sorry. Take out, so the project description will start on the next page. We're just
Yeah, I would
shifting everything
say-
down.
Shift everything down, put the chart as page 2, and then move the eligibility question, question 3, to that same page. So when you're filling out your response about eligibility, you're looking at the chart.
Can I
At the
jump
same
in?
time,
Yeah. That's
Um,
confusing.
I agree with what Ellen's trying to say, but I think it makes more sense how Lisa had it. Just before you start this, is your project eligible? Here's the chart. Don't even fill out the project description or name or anything. Is it, look at, is it eligible? Right
yeah,
up
I
front.
agree with that. All the description, everything else comes after.
So
Don't
where it says,
bother with
"Please
any of this
complete-"
if you don't understand if it's eligible.
Yeah, please submit the following application, and then under it says, but before filling out the application, read the handbook and make sure your project's eligible per this chart.
So I
You would,
think,
or you acknowledge that you've read the handbook and your project is eligible
Per this chart.
for
so
this chart.
if I,
It still makes it pretty subjective. I agree with what Ellen and Freddie said in terms of almost like a pre-qualification. Once again, let me just give you a little feedback in terms of what the state is doing, because they've worked on this model to try to get it right for the last 4 years. And if you're trying to, which the town has applied, you're trying to get money. The first step that you do is provide what the state calls with their one-stop grant process. It's called an expression of interest. So essentially, it's a very high-level look at what you're trying to do. And then the state comes back and tells you, in their particular case, they have money coming from different buckets. In this particular case, to just take using it as a model, to say, okay, if, applicant number 1 says, this is what I'm thinking of, this is what we'd like to do, is this in line with what can be used for CPC money? Or CPA money, excuse me. And that way, then they can, they get a yes or no. And it kind of guides them, so to speak, to go back, and if they get a no, to go back and read. We all know, folks, people don't read these days, okay? And they want it to be netted out as easily as possible. And it's fantastic that there's a handbook if people read it. And I don't know, because I'm new with this, I don't know what the experience has been in the past. I'll leave that up to you guys.
so I
So,
think what I'd like
go
to
ahead,
see,
Graham.
oh, sorry, Lisa.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
So I think this language here is too soft in the top of the page, that you should familiarize yourself with it. I think we should just say, yes, you should familiarize yourself with it. I think we should link directly to it, obviously, instead of just linking to our website. But also we should have a checkbox there. I have read and understand, I've read and understand the CPC application handbook. So that way we have an acknowledgement. Of course, is it legally binding? No, but we can go back to that. And then also with eligibility, I would like to see it probably upfront. I don't know if it has to be before or after project description. I think before the project description begins with the chart. And also, again, just a simple checkbox. I understand the eligibility requirements for CPA funding. So just to have those two things out in the open up front, and then getting into the description, I think makes more sense.
And may I
Yeah,
add a comment,
Yep.
Particularly for Claire? One of the benefits of having the handbook is not just for the applicant, because as you said, who knows if they read it, right? But it gives the committee validation for why a project doesn't meet the criteria. It's
Totally
written in black and
understood.
white.
Makes
So-
absolutely all the sense in the world.
That is a valuable thing, and hopefully people will read it and have a better understanding of what is expected from them, from the committee, to be successful. But
and one thing I want everybody to remember too is this, we're having the forum next Wednesday. This has to be approved and live along with the handbook next Wednesday. So we need to think about the changes that we want to make as well, because if we're gonna, I'll just leave it at that. I just want to make sure that we cover the dates specifically, and we can always fix like we did the handbook. We used the handbook the first year and then we came back and we critiqued it again. We can also do the same thing with this. I just want to make sure that we get the things we think the most important done and in, so we can sign off at the next meeting. It can go live.
I like Grant's suggestions, that like that's a good first move. To your point, Lisa, like there's probably ways we can continue to refine it, but I think we're all kind of seeing some value in saying, let's really put it in their face and maybe strengthen our wording just a little bit to be like, it is, this is mandated that you review this and that you familiarize yourself with it. I know if someone put that in an application to me and I was going in to talk to them about my application, I'd be like, well, I better make sure I can, I've done this stuff. It's just, it may not force the hand, but beyond that, to your point, I think we need to like be conscious of the fact that we do have this need to finalize this.
Yeah. So Katie, I don't know if you got all that from Grant. Grant, if you could even forward to Katie that I think Katie, we've thrown a lot of things out there. So if Grant forwards you the language that he wants to see that we're all in agreement with, would that be easier?
Yeah, that would be great. I'm a little confused
Okay.
on where we want to go, but I'm happy to do it.
Okay, so Grant, if you would do that on this page.
Sure.
Okay, so we, again, on this page, before we move forward to, we need to change the application date. And we needed to change it to annual town meeting 2026 in the second paragraph. And then take Ben's name out as well. I think, Katie, I think we gave you those, but just to make sure.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so let's keep going then.
Whoa. What am I missing here?
What do you mean, Claire?
Please submit the following application by August. That was last year.
Right, we're changing the dates.
Okay,
So we changed the date to September 15th of 2025. Katie's changing these
Gotcha.
dates.
okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah, and then she's changing annual town meeting to 2026.
gotcha.
Okay.
And then the next change?
Grant is the change that Grant just went over, the language that he wanted and moving the chart up. He's gonna go over that with Katie. That we've all,
Why is Ben Smith's name still there?
well, that's coming out too, Claire. We already went over that. Just a few minutes ago. Katie's changing that to my name as chair.
Yeah, the only changes that were made was making it fillable. Nothing else was changed
Correct.
from last year until we
Correct.
discussed tonight.
Yeah. So those will be changed, Claire, when you get the next application. Those are edits that we went over tonight.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought we were doing them on the screen. Okay, thank you.
No, we're not. We're not doing them on the screen.
Got it.
So Grant, could you go back to page 4, I think it is now? We went through this. We go to the next page. The screen just cut in half for me. Oh, there we go. Thank you, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, funding timeline. These are all boilerplate standard that have been in the application. Is everyone fine with this? Does anyone want to change this?
So for funding, the first question there, I'd like to, well, I don't know if I should add to the first question or change it, but I'd like to see specifically asking, have you pursued alternative means of funding? Other than outside of the CPA. That could
But-
either change that first question here, available, committed, or consideration, but I think just being upfront and asking, have you sought or are you seeking alternative funding means, and what are they? Because I think we always ask that question, and I don't think previously that we've really gotten that answer in this for question 6 in previous applications.
So you don't think the second sentence covers that, including commitment letters and kind donations, volunteer hours, and describe any other attempts to secure funding? You want stronger language than that?
I mean, I think so.
Grant, are you thinking maybe like, because I think I might see where you're going with this, like, is it going to be on us to do the homework to find out if there is in fact alternative sources of funding, which we're probably going to do anyways, but can we say to them, can you confirm that there are no alternative funding sources available, committed, or under consideration? Like, again, just maybe a little bit stronger, like, don't put that on us, do the homework. Have you done the homework?
Yeah, so for me, what I've seen, how people answer this question is essentially they think the question means, are other funds out there that could be used for the project, which is different than have they actually sought out those funds. So for example, on historical projects, we know that there's the Mass Preservation Projects Fund, which does large scale you know, grants for major historic restoration projects. If I was filling out an application, I would see what additional funding sources are available. Well, that is available. It's out there. You know, CPC should know about that. But that's a kind of a different question from, you know, have you sought funding for the, you know, whatever it is, the fire truck to offset CPA funds? Have you sought funding for the, you know, for your historic project, you know, applied for the grants, that kind of thing. So I do think they're a bit different, but that's just me.
So
don't
do you
know.
want to add different language to this grant? I'm just trying to figure out what it is you want to do.
Yeah, either change the first sentence, the first
What
question.
would you change
or,
it to?
Have you sought additional funding sources? Or have you? Yeah, are you seeking alternative means of funding outside of the CPA process?
Can you also include, listing any kind of, private, public partnership? You know, in other words, if you were to, you know, well, just let's take restoration of a building, okay, where funds have been provided by private parties. Which, once again, speaking from the state, because that's the only thing that I'm really familiar with, is that gets you extra points if you have a private partnership, or if you have a partner, so to speak, that's the wrong word, who's gonna work along with you and kick in some funds in order to achieve what it is that you're looking for the money.
But that's not a
Kind of implied,
requirement
right?
of this. I think we need to be very careful that it's not a requirement for someone to go and solicit funds somewhere
No,
else.
but if you have several projects that are competing and you only have a certain amount of funds, who's gonna win out? Typically, it would be the one who has somebody else who's also supporting it, I would think.
Isn't that implied in the first question? If you have if you have somebody helping you out, I mean, that's directly what we're asking, right? In the first question.
Which question is that?
What additional funding sources are available, committed, or under consideration? So if you have an additional funding source committed, and that covers what you're talking about, I think.
Right, yeah.
So for me, I think there's two different ways of looking at this. One is the applicant themselves seeking alternative funding, which I think we should ask specifically. And then the second is what alternative funding sources are out there. Are there other grants? Are there, you know, private investment? Did they get donations? You know, those kind of things. But I do think they're a bit different because one is alerting the CPA that, the CPC that, you know, there's this great grant program and we might try to, or, you know, that could potentially fund all of this or something. Whereas the other is, oh, but we didn't apply to that grant because it was too hard. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is that I found that we haven't gotten a good sense as a committee of whether or not they've actually pursued alternative funding or what, you know, ways to offset tax dollars until kind of late in the process. And oftentimes the answer has been no. So I think just having that be a specific question would be clearer.
Is the point
So
kind of
what-
generally that, yeah, sorry, is the point generally
ahead.
that like people are jumping into this and saying, and just kind of coming straight to CPC without trying, and you want to encourage them to go out there and try first?
Yes, or if they're not going to try finding someplace else, you know, go find other funding, then just say, no, I'm going straight to CPC, and that gives us information too. But I think we should ask the question.
So what is the specific question, Rand? Where do you want to add it? And what is the specific question?
Are you seeking alternative means of funding outside of the CPA process?
But wasn't that what you said under 6? Am I misunderstanding? I
Yeah.
thought we were already adding that.
Oh, okay.
No, 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 I'm
No.
sorry. I just want to,
Yeah, that was it. I didn't realize that we were adding it, so I thought we were
no,
still
no.
talking.
Katie, did you have that? I thought we had that to add.
Yeah, so are we just, we're just gonna delete what additional funding sources are available, that first sentence, and putting in what you just said, Grant? Is that the plan?
Under 6.
I'll leave it to others to decide if we want to delete that first sentence or just add an additional question in front of it.
I'm fine with adding the additional question.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm fine with that too.
Okay,
Sounds good.
everybody good with that? Okay. All right. Is that it for this page? Okay, let's go to the next.
I have just a real quick question. On this funding, let's say, somebody got whatever their request was for, at annual town meeting next spring, okay? What are the commitments or what are the timelines that are, CPA set up, or where's the flexibility? And I apologize if this is in the handbook, I didn't read it.
Blair, you didn't read the
I
handbook.
know,
We're gonna
Well-
make you check a box that you read it.
I know, I'm a sinner, but I'm admitting I'm a sinner.
What we've done in the past, Blair and Freddie, jump in if I'm misspeaking, is we added as part of the approved application, we give a window, typically it's 2 years.
Okay,
You
all right.
know,
Yeah,
Freddie, am I misspeaking?
Typically, when you go over it with the applicant and you start to understand the project better, it's unique to each project if they have a concern, but you said like 2 years was standard. We have a sunset clause we started adding. It gets in, it's with a discussion with the applicant, what makes sense and what the CPC thinks makes sense with the applicant for a timeline. Because
Got
a
it.
heavy duty construction project is different maybe than a,
Right.
you know, so there's not a standard one size fits all, and that
Right.
is discussed during the
okay,
application.
so, if I can be a sinner again, bless me, with all this stuff. What kind of reporting are they, so let's say let's use Freddie's example, it's 2 years. What kind of reporting are they required to do?
Freddie, do you want to answer that one or do you want me to jump in?
Well, you typically require they report back to you every 6 months and come in. It hasn't been,
Okay, so what you said was typically, that's not, and once again, I go back to when I project managed a couple of the grants that were given to the town from the state. It was quarterly reporting. And I mean, it was essentially, in other words, if you said that you had a certain match, you were reporting on what was happening with the match, how much of the grant money was being spent. So typically doesn't that doesn't do it for me.
well, you
Well-
get to discuss that during the application process. It's a different animal with CPA.
I think a
Because
good
typically-
example. Oh, sorry, Ready.
I was going to say typically in most communities, after the funding goes, the CPC is out of the picture. This Community Preservation Committee has stayed in and manages the grant a little bit, but we do not micromanage. You do not micromanage the project.
And I'll
I
give
just
you,
wanted to add
It's funded, it's funded.
go ahead, Kristen, then I'll go.
I just wanted to add, like, to Freddie's comments about things you talk about during the application process, and to your point, Lisa, that not all projects are the same. You know, we just went through this with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, right? For the last, and people correct me if I'm wrong, because I was there for part of the conversations, but we had a lot of back and forth about the sunset clause, and we had a lot of back and forth about, where we had some back and forth about what would be reasonable for reporting, and so it became a little bit more of an intimate negotiation, knowing the unique details of that money transfer. which is a lot different than paying for a fence, right? You know, there's one example of a very concrete, defined project that's going to get done, and then one that's not quite as defined because there's, you know, different ways they can use that funding. So that's what I, you know, from recent experience, what I would relate back, that obviously we need to get into those discussions in more detail in the context of what the person's putting, whoever's being the request putting forward. And I think we even got town council involved at that point as well to craft the final verbiage of the agreement.
And I'll add to that, Kristen. So town council is going to meet with us this summer, and we're going to talk about grant agreements, letters of expectation, so we can all be on the same page. But another thing, Claire, is, you know, we started, we have the open project list. That's going to be on the agenda every meeting going forward. We may discuss something, we may not. But for instance, you know, Trails is coming in at our next meeting to give us an update at what's going on. The golf course just gave us some. Those are open projects. So I think we just need to decide as a group, you know, is there a standard quarterly or 6 month? It just depends on the project. It's so hard to just, to Kristen's point, you know, we've had a lot of discussion on these things, and it is part of the application process, Claire. And that's where we could put in as one of our recommendations, you know, for acceptance is, you know, a 4 month, a 6 month, a 1 year annual report, whatever, you know, it could be during that phase. Does that answer? Okay. Okay, let's keep going. We still got a few things to get through, and
Just
I want to go back to vacation.
just a minor thing.
Sure.
For summary, I'm just realizing now that it's kind of at the end of all of this. Would it make sense to put it as like the first question in this section, or second question? What's the name of the project and what's the summary of it? Just moving it up.
Agreed.
Okay, great. So where do you want to move it up to? Just so Katie's clear.
Like number 2, so
Make-
ahead of goals.
Okay, so make number 11, is it number 11? I
Yeah,
think it is. Make 11 2, and then 2 becomes 3, and so on and so forth. Okay,
does that make sense?
Yeah,
That's
it's a good
fine.
edit.
that's fine. Okay, and then we have additional information that can be added. Okay, keep going down. So I think
Oh,
that
sorry.
takes, go ahead.
There's a missing word in which will be printed as the project summary in the warrant article. Or number
Okay.
11. That's the only other
Okay.
thing. Yep.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Where it says will be printed, it is for that use, but I don't think you want to make it definite because the committee may want to change it, or you know what I'm saying?
That's in the summary question, right?
Oh, sorry.
No. Number 11, brief description of the project, which will
Yes,
be
that-
printed, you know, which it will be used.
Which can be,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's brief, it might be. What about if we say which can be?
Yeah, because
Used.
the goal of that was to use it there, but what if they wrote a crappy one? You're not going to put that into the warrant. So, I
Okay.
mean, into the warrant, yeah, so
Which can be
Okay.
used as the project summary for the warrant article.
Yeah.
Which will
Okay.
guide the project summary.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to just cut and paste from here because you won't believe the ones I've had to make up, you know, after the
Yeah.
fact.
My question is, why should the onus be on you? The onus should be on the applicant not to put in a crappy description.
Correct, but the project can change as it goes, not change, but the nuances may change throughout the application process, and it's not the applicant's warrant article, it is the CPC's warrant article, and you write the warrant and you write the project description to be what you funded. So you want to have the guidelines from them. Ideally, it would be not a crappy thing, it would be great, but you know, you want the ability to not be saying you're using exactly what they
Gotcha,
say.
okay.
All
It's
right,
not their
let's keep,
application, it's not their warrant article.
all right, let's keep going. Anything there? I got nothing. Anybody jump in if you do. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, I guess, the only thing that I have to say about, if you can just scroll, where it talks about the zoning.
Yeah,
And in your experience with this, are most people, so to speak, savvy or up to speed or understand the zoning? As it relates to their project, or is that something that requires research on somebody's part that is, that should be done by the applicant and then just approved by whether it's the planning board or whoever?
so for this, Claire, I can tell you, and granted, I've only been on CPC a couple years, in the couple years I've been on here, I don't know that this has ever been an issue. There's never been a zoning.
Oh, okay, all
Um,
right.
Freddie is, does,
What
okay,
what I'm
first we're
trying
taking a
to
second.
do is
Ellen, where's your
just-
son? Let's all wave at Ellen's son. Did he leave?
You did. Sorry
Oh,
about
we
that.
wanted to wave at him. We saw him in the camera, so Claire, I don't know that that's ever been an issue with any project so far. I mean, going back over the years, I think you're gonna see that as well.
Okay. So just so that everybody understands is, it just seems to me that, any work that should be done by the applicant should be done by the applicant and should not
Agreed.
become, a duty of, the CPC.
We want to be
Agreed.
helpful, right? People aren't experts, people aren't lawyers when they fill this out, so we want to cooperate with them and help them out. and-
No,
work with them.
I'm not saying that, but in other words, if, I came up with this idea and I said, well, I checked the zoning on Route 9 and I checked with the, ZBA and I checked with the planning board and they're all okay. Oh, good, you did it. But if you're trying to propose something, and it's in an area where there's, shall we say, questionable zoning, I don't, personally, I don't think it's a CPC thing to, yeah, I agree with, helping with it. But initially, the initial work has to be done by the applicant.
I think, as Lisa said, though, this particular one doesn't come up very often, so we
That's
probably
what-
don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Claire,
Go ahead,
that's what the
Freddie.
question says, that they need to prove that the
Yeah.
project does not violate the zoning.
I think we're trying to like lead the horse to water. Can we ultimately
Yeah.
make it drink? No. So we're like, what a horrible analogy, but if they don't drink, we're here to like provide the backup. But you do hope when they see that question, they'll take it upon themselves to figure it
Right.
out. But to Brett's point, some people just might not have that.
So
Knowledge.
just one last quick question.
Okay.
So with number 3, in the end, what's the process for actually getting checked out?
Well, again, you'd have to have a project, Claire, that the zoning would have to be changed on. And to date, Freddie, are you aware of any that zoning became an issue on? I'm not. From all
Okay.
the years even going to town meeting.
Okay, all right.
It could be more of an environmental issue and you would just, but see, that's the other thing. You have someone from the planning board, you have someone from Concom. You have someone from recreation, historical, housing.
Oh,
That's good enough.
everybody's, can I hold on for 1 minute? Everybody wave. We've got a little one. Where'd they go? Come back.
I'm so impressed with the 8 on the dot going to bed.
Seriously,
Oh.
if I'm
Oh, there we
trying
go.
not to go 3 for 3 here. I think the last one's
Hello?
gonna stay upstairs. Okay.
Have a
Good night, Paige.
All right, sorry, Claire,
Sorry.
we don't get many happy children on our
Yeah.
Zoom, so we appreciate it when they come on.
Um,
Okay, so are we
the
good
only-
with that?
I'm fine with the language itself. It seems to me like the title for it is zoning compliance, whereas the language is actually regarding not just zoning, but any other laws. So should it just be, more broad, that like the name
Legal
of it should be more
compliance.
broad,
I'm
compliance
okay with what
with
it is.
bylaws or something? or-
Yeah,
I agree with grant bylaw compliance.
okay. Katie, can we change that?
Can do.
Okay. All right, guys,
Mhm.
let's keep going. I have to be off by 8:30, so Kristen, if we're not done, I'm gonna have to hand it over to you. I have dinner waiting and family waiting for me, so, okay. All right, I don't have anything on this. Anybody?
Nope.
Okay,
Other than that the formatting looks a bit weird on number 6, but
okay,
if we can, or I guess maybe if we could try to
Just the
have,
paragraph spacing looks like
Yeah.
it's less than one.
Yeah.
and
okay.
I think there are a few others throughout, if we can try to catch some of those. If not, that's fine.
Okay. And was there anything we wanted to add here?
It should be select board instead of board of selectmen
Okay,
in bullet point 1.
got it. And a space in the third bullet after and. And proposed, first line, third bullet.
We'll have to change bullet point number 3 because we don't do MOUs anymore.
I say we leave it as an MOU right now because we don't know, Grant, what we're gonna do, what we're
Okay.
gonna end up calling it, so.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think that's
Again,
fair.
until we meet with town council, we
Yeah.
can certainly change the application this summer as we go and just change that verbiage out, but. I'd like to have at least something in there.
Great.
Okay, and then, okay, is that the last page now? Or, nope, we've
Did we
already moved
catch
that up.
Did we catch that fourth bullet? Reports at 6-month intervals. I think that could be written a little bit so I understand 6 months, but I don't think needs a space there someplace.
Right, it needs a space after at, yep. Okay. Okay. All right, and then the last page is going to be the full sheet, that's moved up.
Vicky, we could probably get rid of that thing that says new as of 2012 in there,
Where is it?
on the
Oh,
bottom
the
of the
under the
recreation
note?
column.
Oh, mhm.
The
I
bo-
would leave that in there for this
Yeah.
turf always comes up, just my opinion, turf always comes up.
Yeah.
So it's easier just to leave, just to leave the sentence, okay,
I
So-
have one more thing. Sorry, Lisa.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Going back to the first page, one thing I know, and I don't know what the change would be for this, but one thing I noticed is that sometimes for the applicants, we get for name of applicant, we get them putting their name rather than like if it's a committee. We end up referring to it as like Andrew Dennington's proposal as opposed to like the town, like the Board of Selectmen's proposal. But I don't know how to, I guess
So
maybe contact
Call it
person. would be
applicant.
fine.
name of applicants, or board/committee,
Yeah, I think that would be,
okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
okay,
Katie-
yeah, that would be good, actually.
Can we add that next to applicant? Name of applicant or board/committee/commission?
Okay.
And then
Or
the
group,
contact person
maybe?
would be the board member or whatever, so, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay,
That's it for
anything
me.
else, Grant?
No,
Okay. All right,
And then
folks, I
just-
think, sorry, go ahead, Ellen.
Sorry, super minor, I promise. The zip code is wrong. I don't actually know where that is, but
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
think that's Northborough.
Oh, 1746 at the top. I don't know where that is either, but good catch. Okay,
I think that's Fayetteville's zip code.
oh, is it? Well, good catch. We'll get that fixed. Thank you.
oh,
Thank
and
you,
we'll
Ellen.
have to, I think we might have already done this, but also change the application date on the front, and also it would be FY 2027, I believe.
6,
Is that 6? No, 7. Wait,
7. No,
We'll
Yeah,
be, we'll be
7.
hearing it in 26, so it's fiscal
Right.
year 27.
yep.
okay.
27.
We need to change that to 27. Okay, so Grant, if you would send Katie what you wanted on, what was it, the third page, second,
Yep.
third, second page? If you could send that to Katie, and Katie, I get home on Sunday. I'll stop in and visit with you and we can kind of zip through this together if you want.
Sure.
Any
that'd
other
be great.
changes? Okay, I'll do that,
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, for keeping
Right,
track
for
of all
Monday.
that.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
pleasure.
Perfect, great. So I left discussion of open projects and steps
Sorry,
forward.
Lisa, one quick question. Do
Yep.
there's no need for us to vote that as final as amended tonight, or?
We can, but I think if people want to see it, we can vote. I mean, we already have to vote the handbook at the next meeting. It makes sense to do this one too. We'll get this done and get it in the Dropbox.
Okay, as long as we
So-
didn't have any time constraints, that's all.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
it's gonna go live, so it just goes live the next day and we'll tell
Okay.
everybody and we'll get it on the webpage. So open projects and steps forward, that's just something I'm gonna leave on here, just in case something, changes or there's an update to give. Grant and Ellen, I don't know, under signage, if you guys had a chance to chat or come up with maybe some ideas that you wanted to share, or we can share them at the next meeting. It's totally up to you guys.
Ellen, I saw your email from earlier. We didn't have a chance to connect, but Ellen did put
Okay.
together a nice document. I don't know if you want to share that, Ellen.
Sure. So Lisa, given your timing, happy to do this now, or
Yep.
at our
Go
next
ahead.
meeting. Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's see if I can share. So this was just based on conversations Grant and I had earlier. Let's see. Grant, sorry, are you able to share just as a host?
Yeah, let me.
Oh, sorry, Ellen, I should have made you co-host, sorry.
No, no worries.
Put that.
No problem.
Give me one sec.
So while he's pulling that up, basically there's a sign gallery on the Coalition website that has photos, of signs from a bunch of different towns. And so what we put in here were just a few examples that we had looked at, talked a little bit over email that liking some of this language, that it's a project supported by the town of Southborough through the Community Preservation Act funds. And so there were a couple different examples. The first one from Ashland is kind of for a project in progress, a more temporary thing while something's under construction, just to kind of alert folks that what's happening here is the result of their vote at town meeting. The middle one is a permanent like PVC sign, and then the last one is a permanent bronze sign, all with different kind of variations of that wording. And then below that, Grant shared some information on the sign vendors that the Historical Commission uses. So both for their PVC signs for the Historic House program, and then the bronze signs with those examples from the Cemetery Water Tower, and also used in the Historic District. So Grant, it sounded like from your mail you've had good experience with both of those vendors, shared some of the cost information. So just wanted to update everyone on those.
That's great. Thank you guys for doing that work. I think this is awesome. What I'll do is, I don't know if anybody has any comments on this tonight, or if we want to really delve into it more and go over on a per project basis, kind of what our thoughts would be for, all of these, open-ended projects that are out there that are just waiting for signage. I mean, I think it would be kind of specific to each project. But thoughts from,
I
the
think
group?
you just answered my question. We don't have to delve into it tonight. Was like more on I didn't think about for projects already done on a go forward basis. Would we, as part of the application, say, okay, project of this size, then we're going to recommend both, the PVC and the bronze. So you need to add that to your application. Is
or
that
we
the
could
thought
add it
process?
as, Freddie, could we add it as part of a contingency? Because until we get something in place, Kristen, I don't think for this cycle, we're gonna know what to tell them to add until we
Right.
finalize what we want.
You
And
may
Go ahead.
add that at the end of the application, not as a contingency, but as a cost.
Okay.
So say they ask, just make believe, they ask for $1,000, and you can say,
Yep.
yes, $1,000 plus $500 for a sign or whatever.
Got it.
is. Not that much.
Okay.
I would
Okay.
say one thing about these signs, they're really nice, but just consider that one of the goals, and a lot of the towns that have them, they stand out so you know that CPA funds are being used on these projects. And a lot of the more subtle historical signs, you have to get right up and close and personal. And I know I drive through towns where you're driving down the street and you see, oh, there's a CPA project. As you know, Newton does that, down the Cape they do it. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking, you know, it's not something discrete that you want so much as sometimes it may be, but you know, loud and proud is that the wrong saying? But you know, so that people know that CPA funds are being used on these amazing projects.
Okay.
Thanks, Betty.
That's
Grant,
what-
can you forward me that so I can put that in the Dropbox?
Oh, I think Ellen already put it in. Yep, I'm on Dropbox now, so it's in
Oh, you
Dropbox.
are? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep, sorry, I
Perfect.
didn't tell you
No, no.
that, but it is in the Dropbox.
Perfect. Thank you. That's the whole point of it. So, okay. So thank you for doing this. I think that this is a great start to the conversation. You know, and I think as we go through and look on a project by project basis, it'll give us a better idea. I mean, I don't think a bronze plaque at the playground or the basketball court would, you know, really make a lot of sense. So, finding another path, you know, and I think you've given us some great options with the PVC and you know, and the bronze, like the townhouse, you would expect to see something a little more prestigious. So, thank you for that.
And one final thing I'll note is that these are just the vendors that we use. Obviously, there's other ones out there, but oftentimes the vendor will help design it. So if we don't have or you know, obviously we'll give them the text that we want or whatever.
Yeah.
Historical Commission, Annie Pfaff actually designs the signs, she has those skills, which is nice. Nice for us. It saves us time and communication back and forth. But I do believe that, you know, they offer the services to design it as we want as well. So just keep
And
that in mind.
Perfect.
in previous years, we required that any project have a sign. We had them made up like a lawn sign for political signs. This one looks the CPA funds at work. That's what we used to do. That looks nicer than the ones we had done up like a political sign, just like stick in the ground, but that it was required during the whole construction of the project.
Yeah, I think we should get back to that, Freddie, doing that again.
I think
I
so.
think that's important, you know, so the taxpayers do see where their funds are, you know, whether you go to town meeting and vote on it or you learn about it after the fact, that you can see where, you know, your taxes are going. So thank you. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Ellen, for that. We'll continue with this discussion as we go. Next up is the June public forum. Grant, would you mind pulling up the presentation? So I don't anticipate, maybe I'm wrong, too many changes to this. This is just talking about the process. So if you could just pull that up, that would be great. I know we updated a couple numbers. There's still a couple of things I noticed that need to be updated as well.
Sorry, give me 1 sec.
No, you're fine. But if we could work through it, I think it touched all the points that we needed to touch on, you know, the point of the forum. So, we don't have Ben here doing it this year. So, I'm gonna give it my best and, you know,
You'll
go
do
from there.
awesome.
It's all we
I have
can
a
ask
really-
for.
I have a really easy one. My name's Kristin, MTEN throughout.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, as soon as we get that up and,
Great. Sorry, it's being slow.
nope, that's okay.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes, so if you go to the overview, which is just, again, that's membership, what we talked about, just you know, what we're gonna talk about. So I don't know that there's anything that needs to change on that. If anybody sees anything, let me know. I like hearing nothing. That's great. We go to the second page and Kristen, I'll make that change. And you can see I did some in red. After I had initially put it out and sent it to everybody, I noticed some boo-boos, so I went and fixed them.
We need to add
So
to our-
Kristen, you're an IN? Sorry, Grant, what? Sorry.
Oh, we need to add that you're chair, Lisa.
Oh, yeah.
And also Brett, I think Brett's name is.
Oh, I'm
over.
on there at the top, Grant, as
Yeah.
chair.
It looks like a heading of the table, but yeah, she's up there in the top row.
Oh, sorry, I
the
didn't
top,
see that.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
looking at the red one that was crossed out.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry
So
about that.
I was on there twice. I was like, oh, who did we miss? So yeah, so I just moved Brett up into that spot, and then I added Katie for the Housing Authority. So
But Brett should be Brett's name should be in the center column, I think.
Correct, but I didn't have
Okay.
room to put it because I
Oh,
redlined
okay,
it, that's
yeah,
all. Yeah,
yeah.
so it's gonna go over, correct,
Okay,
yep,
great.
okay. Everybody good? Everybody's names are spelled correct, other than Kristen, sorry, Kristen. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah,
Um,
believe me, I'm used to it.
Okay, next one. What is the CPC? This is actually taken, if I'm not mistaken, right from the coalition's website. So this is standard language throughout.
Beautiful.
Okay, anybody have anything on that? All right. History of CPA. That hasn't, obviously none of that's changed. So if nobody has anything on that,
Does that
Go ahead.
kind of repeat the first slide?
the
What,
fir- the
The first
overview,
slide's the overview of the.
It's like a
enti-
table of
the
contents,
presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
no, you're fine. Okay,
Just
the
on
next,
that, sorry, just on that slide 4, in the title, I don't think we need could just be history of Southborough's CPA.
which slide, Ellen, sorry.
Where Grant is right now on slide 4.
Okay.
Do you
And
want me
just
to edit
say-
this, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
I'm editing it, okay.
That's perfect. And I can even go back and change Kristen's later. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. So we're good with that?
Great.
Okay. This was some of our duties, you know, that's we're required to do. That's standard.
I think, unless I'm missing it right now, we came across this in the handbook as well, that one of our duties is to solicit, not just to hold a forum, but like a broader solicit public opinion about projects that are needed in the community or something like that.
Okay.
I
don't
thought Freddie
spec-
had added that language to the handbook because, and she said that's it.
Is
Yeah.
that not
Grant,
educate?
that's under the develop a CPA plan for the town of Southborough.
Okay, sorry.
So
Okay.
you solicit the information and it's not, it's,
Okay,
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing, that's all, so thanks.
Okay. Okay, next slide. So Freddie had updated this. This is actually updated already. We can take off the draft updated slide off the bottom, Grant, if you wouldn't mind. Freddie was kind enough to update this from what the tax rate was in this for fiscal year 2025.
What's the source behind these numbers?
Freddie, do you want to answer that? You
yeah,
updated
this
these
is
numbers.
through the town, Paul Sabelli, town assessor, and I think some of it might have been through, I think it was mostly through this town assessor.
You want to add that, or just not?
It might, you just want to make sure that if it comes up. I don't know that you have to.
These are
add
just
it.
talking points, Claire.
Yeah.
These are just talking points. So,
Understood, and that, but
Yep.
what I brought up was, as a talking point, it may come up where somebody would ask, what's the source? Which Freddie said is the assessor, so it's fine.
okay, no, we can,
No one's asked in 20 years, but there's always a first time, right?
yeah, absolutely. We'll add it. You know what? It'll be on the screen.
I'm
I'll
not
gloss
saying that you
over
have
it.
to, I'm not saying that you have to put it on the slide. I'm just, as a person seeing something like this, if they came to the, hearing, the presentation, whatever you want to call it.
Form,
might
yeah,
Just ask you, I just didn't want anybody to be blindsided,
Okay.
that's all.
thank you. All right, so we're good with that. Number 7. That's just standard.
I have a question about administration. Is it 5% or up to 5%?
Yeah,
Ready?
it's up to 5%.
Thank you.
Okay. Next. So those were just to show you when we updated this. Freddie, I wanted to ask you, did we, and I can't remember this, when we initially changed this, is it through July 1st, 2024? Or should it be, it can't be 2025 because we don't know. So it has to be 2024.
No. Let me double check the numbers here because I don't have the in front of me, but it should be July 1st, 2025.
Okay,
These numbers include what you voted at the last meeting.
so you had given me these prior, so you're saying we
25.
need to,
Let
that
me
makes
just-
sense though, because the housing reserve dropped. What Brady
well,
said.
it did. So you can see we changed
Yeah.
the 576, so it's 102.
Yeah.
Wait a
What's
second.
left in
So
there. What?
you spent some and then more money got added in.
All right,
the
so you're gonna have to
10% side.
update these again?
No, I'm just saying because you just asked it and that didn't say 25, I will double check, but my
Yeah.
memory, because it was a while ago that I updated them. I just don't have my notes here right now. What we did was there's a balance today, and then on July 1st, what was voted at town meeting gets added in. It's not there yet because she hasn't
So-
updated from town meeting, right?
So then okay,
So the historic reserve, the reason that has 2004-84 is because we used all of the money in there, plus the money we voted in. We didn't vote money in because we used money, but we had those adjustments.
so let me ask you this, if we're gonna change this again, then,
It should just be
Is-
what's there, Lisa. I just got nervous when you asked about the date, so.
yeah, I don't know why it just dawned on me, Freddie, I thought I had changed the date to 2024.
25.
Okay, so
So which
Okay,
one should
that
it
would-
be?
that-
Sorry.
it should be 2025, Grant, sorry,
Okay. Sorry.
sorry.
And
I
then
know that this is what this is.
And you can take that out, and you can take out the red lines too, Grant. Those were just to show what was there, because initially when I sent this to you guys, it had the old numbers in there. And then Freddie updated them, so I wanted to redline them so people wouldn't confuse and say, why did you send me this when it's this? Okay.
And the
There's-
reason you have
Yeah.
you have several dollar signs, but the reason the CPA fund balance is unknown is because that takes other things into consideration beyond our capacity, and that's the town accountant closing out the books. And she doesn't get that number until later in the,
So I will ask if everybody's okay with when we end this and we're all on board with this, that we are okay to still go forward with this at the forum. If these numbers change, Freddie will update me instead of it, us having to come back and look at it all again.
Yeah.
As far as this piece. Okay.
can I say these are the right numbers? I just got nervous.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I will double
Okay.
check them just because, you don't want to have a mistake.
Yeah. This was the same thing. What I initially sent you from the prior year had the prior year's numbers. So this was just putting in the correct numbers that Freddie, the updated numbers Freddie had given me. And then we changed it to November 2024. And then, yeah, that comes out. And then Freddie changed the name because it's not called that anymore. And we changed that to 2024.
what's this, we received against the FY 20.
You see,
The
Yeah.
state match is a year behind.
yeah,
Against the FY 24 surcharge. is that right?
24.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just take that out.
Oh,
Wow, Grant,
Thank
you're doing
you.
this, so I don't have to do it on vacation. Thanks.
that's what I'm here for, Lisa, I guess.
Okay. Now you're here for a lot more than that, but thank you. Okay, so that's good. And the next, I don't know that we're gonna want to change any of these. These are just some of the approved projects, examples of approved projects. We went through this quite extensively last year. This slide, the next slide, or again, and I'll just touch on a few of them. And then the next is the application process. So,
The only thing on the projects, 10,
Yes.
11, do we want to throw in there like one of the ones approved at the last meeting, like that fence, people are so confused about. They're like, how can we not pay for Neary when we can pay for, however, expensive the fence was. And so this might be our opportunity to say, most recently, you might remember, the fence project.
So, but it hasn't, there's no one's seen anything with it though, Kristen?
Not a complete project.
You know what I mean? It hasn't even started yet, I don't think. So I
Okay.
think they won't be, these all you can put, and there's pictures that kind of
Yeah.
relate with them as well. But
That's
I can
fine.
add that. I can say, mention the
It's
project.
not,
from
it's not
last
a
year.
big deal. I just know that I saw some every now and then in the
Yep.
Neary debate, you see some grumblings about that. And clearly people don't understand, like, we're not talking about the same type of funding.
How about, Lisa, examples of completed projects?
Just, okay, that's fine.
Ah,
Never get the formatting. I didn't mean to, it's not a big deal.
No, it's good. It's good. So. Okay. 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 So application process, again, I made the change. We're gonna change that to actually 25, not 24. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Right, and we're gonna change, do we want to stick to the 6:30 date, or we're gonna, I thought we were gonna use the after the forum. Do we want to stick to 6:30? Do we want to do it the day after the forum? Because it's gonna take us a day to get it up on the town website after we approve the handbook and the application. So why don't we say the forum is the 18th, why don't we say 6/19? And it's not
I'm
a
okay
Friday.
with that.
do we need to say the date that it's available, since this is gonna be? It's gonna be available.
No, you know what, you're right. It
Pretty
would
much
be-
immediately after.
Yeah, so
It's
just
fine.
take that off, that's fine.
I mean,
It makes
Okay.
sense, Grant, just, yeah.
and also, is it southborough.ma.gov or com? I can't remember. Didn't they change it?
I think it's gov,
Okay.
Yeah, it's changed.
Gov, yeah.
It's not gov.
okay. Submit an application, we're gonna change that deadline on that grant to September 15th. So can we take off, please read our CPC application handbook here? Can we take out here? Because we're not gonna put a hyperlink in the PowerPoint. Up in the second bullet. Yeah, just take out here.
Want to write on
Anybody
your
have any-
webpage?
We have the applications already listed there on the webpage, up top, Freddie.
The handbook.
Most technically,
we-
we only say the handbook is on the web, or the application's on the web page, but we don't say the handbook is on the
Okay,
web
yep.
page.
We'll
That's,
just add that. And again, these are just talking points anyway, so it's not,
yeah.
Sorry.
but
Yeah.
no, can you add it to the second bullet, Grant?
The
uh,
web link.
Yes,
Reason, Lisa, that it's important is I think we post the PowerPoint that people might go through it that miss.
okay, that's fine,
Sorry.
okay. Nope, you're good. Anything else on that, guys? Okay.
I mean,
So,
I guess if we're being nitpicky, like the application process isn't just presenting it to the CPC in September and October. It's like working with us throughout the fall, but I don't think we need to put that on the slides necessarily.
okay,
It's actually not a bad point of clarification, maybe just to say collaborate with, present project to CPC and collaborate to refine or something. I actually think, Grant, that's a good point. It's not like one and done. Like you're probably going to be asked to come back to multiple meetings.
You change the word advisory to other, that covers it, right? To the select board and other committee meetings, and that includes us. Right?
Yeah,
Okay,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
that works.
Um,
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
so we changed the application a little bit.
Can I
don't think
step
it's.
back?
Yep,
The
yep.
point there, if you saw, that was articles. When they're at article, they're done. They're done with the CPC review process. Once they become articles,
Okay, so do we want to do present to CPC and then,
Attend select
don't we
board
just add
CPC.
Just say
another
when
bullet?
CPC requests are reviewed, because they don't become articles to Freddie's point at the very
applications.
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say starting in September till the process is done.
How about attend CPC and relevant select board meetings when necessary?
As
You
required.
just change
yeah.
the word articles to applications. I think we're covered.
Can I just make a point?
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right.
You don't want to confuse the role of the CPC with them appearing in front of the select board or advisory. Select board and advisory are specific meetings to approve, for them to review the project separate from the whole process of the CPC. And they can deny support, and it doesn't matter. The project goes forward for the CPC. It's a totally different, you really want to keep that separate, in my opinion.
Something like this.
That covers our part at least.
I think that covers it. And if they have to go to other, I mean, they don't always go to the select board. Typically, it's us. So when we present, review, whatever, to the meetings when they're going over the warrant articles, typically it's us. So I think we're fine if we leave it like this.
Yeah, and like you say, again, this is it's talking points. This isn't meant to be, this isn't the handbook, right? This is-
Correct. So, okay, so next, we made some changes to this, but these are just highlighting some of the, as you can see in blue, I don't think we need to necessarily change this.
Yeah.
This or the next page either. It just highlights some of the things we're more
I
going to
guess
talk about.
It does have our wrong email and our wrong website, but if people are actually looking at it that closely, but
Okay,
that's the only thing that I noticed.
all right. I'll try to figure out how to do that because this was pulled out of something else. So
Yeah, those are screenshots, I think, which might make it
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
they're going to be kind of tough. Yep. Okay. Yeah, eligibility, then the chart is critical. We talk about that.
Can I just add on the chart there in the application, there's also the note under the chart about artificial turf not being allowed. Can we just add that line on here too? Because I think that's a source of confusion that comes up a lot. So I think as many times as we can say that might be helpful.
I will try to figure out how to do that. Honestly, Ellen, this was a screenshot of something. So
We can just put it in like a text box below it
okay.
that just says,
Do you
the same
remember what
way it
the
does in the
language-
application.
Do you remember
Let me
what the
look.
language was from that?
Yes,
me
it
go.
says the 7/8/2012 legislation prohibits use of CPA funds to pay for artificial turf fields.
Can I just jump in, and not to go into it, but if you're not already aware, I don't know if the
Thank you.
committee discussed this, but there's been new legislation. You can't do anything. Like in the past, they would let you fund the infrastructure and then not the turf. And that was declared to be illegal by a Supreme Court, or there was some judgment recently. So just keep that on your radar, and if you don't know about it, I'll find the legislation and send it out.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Thank you, Freddie. Okay, let's,
I was just gonna say, I also have an email from Rec kind of summarizing where we're at with that decision as well that I can forward.
okay,
Yeah, I didn't see that if you don't mind.
I thought we had something on it, but I can't,
We did, it came up last year, Recreation was looking into it, and then they withdrew
Okay.
because they found out, they're the ones who
Got it.
actually found out.
okay. Perfect, thank you. All right, talking just about the funding sources, and this grant is where we actually get into, I think, the question that you had. And I'll make sure that I print out what we updated on the application for the funding piece to talk about that.
Okay.
to add your piece in, okay?
Thank you.
Maintenance, town meeting approved. Again, this is all just kind of standard. Can you go to the next one?
Lisa, maybe when you're redoing this, it might
Yes,
be easier to just copy the question and paste it into a text box instead of doing another screenshot or something.
see,
Like-
I didn't create this grant, this was.
No,
what
I
was-
know, but like
Yeah,
if we
so-
have to change this anyway, maybe we can. Yeah.
Okay, for maybe for next year,
creative
I don't know
with
if we've
it.
got time
Yeah.
to do it for this year, yes,
Mhm.
okay. And there's our chart again. And then the rest is just pictures. You know, of some of the projects. I think we just kind of leave them in there and we'll just kind of skim through them and, you know. Questions, ideas, and I think the last is, see the website again. Okay,
It's good to me.
so thank you, Grant. If you will just, say that, put that in the Dropbox, I'll pull it out of there. And, oh, look at this. I'm 5 minutes late for dinner. This is awesome, guys. Thank you. I have no chairs report. There's no minutes for tonight and, set the next meeting date's already set for next week. The agenda's already posted. And again, you'll see a lot of the boilerplate stuff on the agenda when I put it in the Dropbox. You know, we're leaving the signage on there and the open projects. That's just going to be standard going forward. So, I thank you. Thank you. And, I'll work with Katie and Grant if you can send her that language. And, other than that, I think we're all good.
Thanks, Lisa, for doing
We
this
have a-
on vacation. Really appreciate it. I
thank
hope
you.
you enjoy your second
Thank
half.
you. Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. We'll have to roll call vote. Claire,
I
okay, Grant,
Aye.
Ellen, Brett,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and Lisa. Yes. All right, folks, thank you very much. We'll,
Night
see
all.
Thanks, everyone.
you all
Thank
soon.
you.
Good night.
Yes.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.